Welcome back to Moms on a Mission. We are in a 90s summer 90s kick.
Yes, we are.
Super awesome.
It is.
Laura is going through a summer list with her kids back to the 90s. And this episode kind of touches on that whole 90s vibe because instead of listening to a book, I'm actually reading a book.
Yep.
I'm making notes in this thing.
I prefer a physical book.
Highlighting it.
Yeah.
This is out of my normal realm because I like to do everything on the go.
Are you normally an audiobook listener?
Totally, because like most books, if I try to physically read them and hold them, it's a first class ticket to a nap.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Now I can relate to that.
Yeah, like it just puts me out. But this book, I have been able to actually read, write, highlight. I'm in a little book club for it.
Nice.
Yes. So I feel like it's kind of a little throwback, like
book clubs are very 90s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're getting back to the real, tangible stuff you can hold in your hand.
Yeah, I love it.
So do we want to open up in a prayer? I don't know that we've done that on every one of these shortened episodes.
I don't think we have. You just want to knock out a short one?
All right. Lord, we just come to you today with just grateful hearts. We are so grateful to be here, be able to do this with one another. And we just ask that you just be in the presence of this episode, guide our words, guide our steps, be with the people in our community, and each one of us that is a part of this show, myself, Laura, and our producer. Lord, please just continue to just guide our way with this, and just let our words and that come from you be a blessing to everyone that can hear. We appreciate the time, and we are so thankful for all of the blessings that you pour out on us. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
That was truly winging it right there.
That was perfect. That was perfect.
Okay, so I am reading this book. It's by Donald Miller, and it's called A Million Miles in 1,000 Years. I don't want to lose all my spots, but here's the book cover. And I've never heard of the book. It wasn't something that, whatever, that I was like, oh, top seller. But at my real estate brokerage, they are doing a book club around it. And I was like, oh, I would love to
jump on board for that.
I don't have anything else to do. Why not join a book club? And
if you know Amanda, you know that's a lie.
And so I started reading the book, and I cannot put it down. I've had to just mark my page and stop reading because I'm way ahead of the book club. But I love it. I love the guy's style of writing, and I love the topic. So the whole thing really, it has logistic parts. So very educational as far as how to create and write story.
Gotcha.
How to capture people's attention, how to make someone's story not only flow from, their life experience and in their minds, but how do we put it on a page and make it compelling?
Right.
So there's logistic parts of it and learning parts, but then there's also this whole heart story behind it. And you kind of hear his story, but he also connects biblically in the book, and he tells about if you're not happy with your story, you can change it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just thought the connection there with real life was so cool because there is this one particular story. It's kind of the hook in the book. But it's several chapters in, but for me, it was the hook. And so the name of the chapter is How Jason Saved His Family. So this guy, he's the writer. He bumps into an old friend at on the street. They have a drink together. They sit down, they're chatting, and he's like, how's life? And he's like, honestly, it's not that great. My kid is on a bad path. We found some drugs in her room, and she's dating this guy that we can't stand. My marriage is a bit rocky. Just, he's just kind of going through the motions. So he's like, enough about me. How about your life? What are you doing? And the writer is like, well, I'm actually in the middle of learning like the elements of story. And a little backstory is that he had already written a book about himself, and this movie company reaches out to him, and they would like for him to um, explore the possibility of making a movie out of it. So he has to learn the difference in how do you write a book and how do you write a movie.
Right.
So he's telling this guy, I'm going through this process of learning, and I'm going through these classes and all this stuff. And the guy like totally checks in. And he listens to what he tells him, and he keeps asking him these questions about creating story. Well, he takes the information home, and he says in here that he decided he was going to create a new story for his family. I was like, oh,
Yes, sir.
yes. He's like, I hated the story we were in. I didn't want to be in the story. My marriage was on the rocks. My kid was in trouble. All these things. And so I decided to create a new story. So what he does is he goes out, he picks this project for their family to be a part of. His wife is upset because he's made this big decision all without her. But then the next day she slept on it and decides that she's thrilled that he's done something like this. So he tells his family meeting, this is what we're going to do. We're doing this project. We're going to do it together. His wife is excited. He said for the first time in a really long time, she wrapped her arms around him, gave him a kiss, told him she was proud of him and that she loved him. And he was like, it had been a very long time since she had said anything like that to me. He goes on, his daughter decides that she's all in, after kind of getting through the like, ugh, I don't want to be a part of this.
Right.
She decides she's all in. She wants to actually like do her own way of raising money to be a part of this project. So the story goes on. He bumps into the guy several months later and he's like, hey man, how's your daughter? Thinking that he's on the same path. And the guy's like, my entire life is different. He said, we took on this project and this was the cool thing. He said, I created a new story for my family for my daughter to become a part of. And he said, this boy, this rebellious boy in this rebellious life, that was just the most compelling story that she could find. And that's what she wanted to be a part of. But when I made a new story and it was way more compelling than smoking some pot and dating this idiot.
Yeah, loser guy.
She wanted to become a part of that story, and she did. She dumped him on her own. We've never had any drug issues after that. We traveled. They went to this place. They got all this footage so that she could help raise money for their project that they wanted to do. And they ended up completing that project together.
That's awesome.
Totally changed their trajectory of especially their daughter's life and their marriage.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the coolest thing to me because I think we've, like in our lives, we feel like this is the path that I'm on.
Yeah.
This is what I've chosen. This is the job I have. This is the house that the house we live in, the town that I grew up in and that I'm raising my kids in, period.
Yeah.
Like there's no option. This is just what we do. But that's not true.
No, and I think so many people feel like they're stuck because their history determines their destiny, and it's not.
Yes.
Like,
yep.
Now it's a lot of work, and it's not always easy.
Mm-mm.
It's a ton of intentionality and self-growth, self-motivation.
Yeah.
Deciding, this is not the way that we're going to go. And I mean, it is. It's a lot of work. I feel like I can resonate with that so well because if you were to, and if you know me, but if you were to take where I come from, my family dynamics, and pair them with all sorts of statistics,
yeah,
I should not be where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like, I just shouldn't. Not only should I, and this is like tough to swallow, but like, I should even be alive based on just certain statistics.
Yeah.
let alone a college graduate and, happily married almost 15 years. Like, it just I've been married longer than either one of my parents were ever married.
Yeah.
My mother was married 5 times. My dad's been married and divorced twice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's not something that I grew up wanting to mimic,
Yeah.
but I think that was the driving force behind it.
Right.
I remember when meeting Josh and learning about him and his family, and I was like, "Oh, man, like, Josh knows all the things to do, and, like, I know all the things not to
Yeah.
do."
It's a perfect match.
Yeah, and it has been, but I just, just because you grow up in a broken environment or with a broken family doesn't mean that you have to recreate it.
No, absolutely not. Even if people assume that's what you're going to do,
Yeah.
this applies to, I think about this like medically a lot too, for those unbelievably incredible people who are maybe given a diagnosis or they lose a limb
Mhm.
or a sense, someone goes blind or, they go deaf or, things like that. Something happens. And I mean, that is a book that you could get so easily stuck in. And there
Mhm.
wouldn't be one person who would ever blame you for living that story. But there's so many people that are like, okay, this is part of my story, but this is not where
Not
I'm
the
going to
end.
live. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to live in this book. I'm going to create this whole other story. And they do these amazing things. They run marathons and they create these, groups and they reach out to their communities and I mean, just do unbelievable
Yeah.
things. And because they decided that that's not their story, that's only just a little blip in their story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think that is so cool. And I think too, like a way we can, not only is this like for us in our own lives and in, our family story, but I think it's cool to kind of share this concept with our kids too of like, you do not have to live in, a story you don't like. If there's a group of friends that are bringing you down, dude,
Go find some new
ditch the
friends.
friends, man. Change the story.
Yeah.
Like, join a different group. Step out of your comfort zone. Like, if there's something that you're like, oh, that'd be cool, do
Do
it.
it. Yeah. Give it a shot. Yeah.
Yes. Like, you don't have to live, in that same, like, what if scenario or, oh, that would have been. Like, it could have been,
Yeah. And
you
it
know?
still can be.
Yes, yes. And so I loved that kind of concept. Um, and there's some biblical truth about this too, as far as like, I don't know, God must be just trying to write something and just give something to me because ever since that actually kind of started before I found or started reading this book, this like concept of story, like what is your story? And it keeps showing up time and time again. I've there's been things that like I'm reading this book about, your story. The other day I read an article about creating your story, your personal story. There's these of course, my algorithm is listening, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And so that, I get feed about sharing your story and all of this stuff just keeps coming into my life that is like talking about creating story. And the other day, I read a Bible verse and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was kind of this connection into what is the what's the story that God wants you to live out? It's probably not what you feel comfortable doing.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
It's probably not what your everyday mundane schedule looks like. Like whatever story he's, pushing you toward is not gonna be where you're like, "Oh, I'm already there."
Yeah. Because if you're comfortable in it, not that it's bad, but yeah, sometimes new stories, they gotta come from like hard decisions
Yes.
and doing things that you don't necessarily want to do. Dying to yourself
Oh, yeah,
daily,
that's a really dying to yourself daily, that's a really good one.
and it's not easy.
No.
It's not at all.
No, and there's some, these biblical examples, there's one, Abraham leaving home. This was and I'm not really versed on that one, I really don't know, but Moses leading people out. I think about this often. Can you imagine being Moses and being like, "You want me to do
To
what?"
do what?
I don't he even tells the Lord, he's like, "I don't even talk right."
Yeah.
He's got a speech impediment. He's like, What?" And then he has to go on this path that is just totally bizarre and makes no sense. And like, can you imagine? But he does it. He listens and he's faithful and he completely changes everyone's story, not just his story, but everyone's story.
Test of obedience.
Yeah. Peter leaving the boat. He literally has to step out.
Yep.
In faith. You know, like so and then there's this last example, Jesus calling disciples into mission together. This is one that like if you've read several of the different stories of the disciples when when they're asked, do you want to follow me? They literally get up and walk out. Like one of them had, it wasn't his father that had passed, and he's like, let me go and bury my father,
Yeah.
and then I would love to follow you. And Jesus is like, nope, right now.
Mm-mm.
Like,
Right this instant.
you know, like there's so many of these super difficult scenarios that I can't even imagine, you know. So stepping out of our comfort zone and creating a new story is not just a like a book that you know that we've read, but it's also a biblical task.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really kind of cool and a really um, just kind of interesting way of teaching and sharing with our kids.
Yeah, because they're, we've kind of adopted this, from our favorites with family goals and keeping it going here that more is caught than taught.
Yes.
And so they're watching us with wide eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell them something, but if I'm not showing them,
Mm-hmm.
it can be for nothing, or it can just be like, the whole do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
I despise, because if I'm not showing them what's important or what matters, or demonstrating that I don't always want to do these things either. I don't always want to do these hard things.
Mm-mm.
And sometimes sometimes I don't even want to pray bold prayers because I just feel like they're so bold.
Yeah. Yes.
But then I remember from one of my favorites, Mark Batterson. He says often, he says, God honors bold prayers.
Yeah.
And I sure don't want to get to the end of this thing and go and hear, why didn't you just ask?
Yes.
So we do. And, I feel like the boys definitely see and hear us asking in prayer for things that are super bold.
Mm-hmm.
Because how cool is it when it comes, to fruition? And it's like, man, I felt like that was so unobtainable.
Yeah.
But here it is.
Yep. Yeah,
Uh,
totally. Imagine how you feel when you find out a friend needed something and they didn't ask you, and you're like,
why didn't you just
"Why didn't
ask
you just
me?
ask me?"
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Even if it's something big, you think you should have just asked me. I wish I could have walked through that with you.
Yeah.
I wish you would have let me in. Imagine how God, our Father, feels in that same scenario where He's like, "Why didn't you just ask me? Make me a part of it."
I'm looking for something over here because you said something and it made me think of Mark Batterson's. Oh,
Is it the prayer circle?
it's not the prayer circle. It's Mark Batterson's foolish comparisons. In one of his books, it is Oh, he says faith is the willingness to look foolish, but he has a whole list that he goes through here. Um, and he's like, you know, Peter looked foolish stepping out of the boat
Mhm. Yeah,
until
can you
he
imagine
walked
sitting
on
behind
water.
him? Be like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?"
Yeah. And then there he goes. The wise men looked foolish, following a star.
Mhm.
Um, who was it that was it's a whole list of them.
Imagine being the guy building the massive boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Noah looked foolish building an ark. And
They're like, "This guy,
that's
Lord."
the list that he goes down, and he's like, until Peter walked on water.
Right.
Until the flood. Until.
Yeah.
And it's just I loved reading them because I was like, I mean, you're right. Imagine having been there and seeing it for yourself and just thinking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then seeing everything come to light and you're like, man, I didn't have the faith
Yeah.
to see it through.
Yep.
And that's kind of a gut punch, but I think that's a lot of reality for us. Just the unknown, and you just have to you have to rely on um God's truth over what you feel,
Mhm.
because I think it's so embedded into us. We've heard it so many times, like, people will never change. Yeah, they can.
Yeah,
And yeah, they do
they do.
all the time.
Yeah. They do, but that is also I feel like, sometimes we as humans, especially women, we can look at somebody and be like, we can change that. Or,
Yeah.
like, I'll fix that.
Yeah.
No.
That's dangerous.
That ain't your job.
Dangerous waters.
That's the Lord's job.
Yep.
And so that's not something that we should take on ourselves, but there are things in our own lives and stories that
Yeah.
we can change. So if we're on this path of being mundane, if our kids are in a bad place, if, change it. Let's switch it up.
Yep.
There's options. There are different things to do. And like some of these like drastic examples are like, is there a place that we could serve together? Is it something simple like making sure we have a meal together? We changed the story. We aren't all separate all the time. We have one time, maybe it's even in a week where we come together. We made that intentional. We changed the story of separation and no one's talking to one another. Taking a mission trip.
Yep.
That one's big. It's expensive and there's a lot of logistics and little ones, can't necessarily be a part of that. But what a crazy, awesome experience
I
for
want
the
to do
teenagers.
it so bad.
Yeah, like I honestly, that kind of scares me.
Does it?
Yeah,
I want to go.
yeah, it kind of freaks me out.
I want to go because I want Maddox to go, because I want him to see how drastically different life is
Yeah,
in other countries.
yeah,
And I think it would just be so good. I think it would be so humbling, because he's never experienced anything like that.
right,
He kind of lives in this bubble here of Habersham County.
right.
And
That is that's a story changer right there.
yes.
Anybody who's ever been on a mission trip, their story has changed
Yep.
after they get back. So that would definitely be a really good one.
I think it would be great. But kind of back to what you were saying, growth can be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people will just think they'll get stuck and they'll only know the old version of you. But that's not on you,
Right.
to try and convince, consistently show I've changed, I've grown, I'm different.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to take the chance to get to know the new version,
Yeah.
then you can't force somebody to do that.
No. And sometimes the harsh reality is if you do decide to change your story and the path that you're on, you may not be with the same people at the
Yeah.
end of that story. Or when the story changes, it may not include some of the people that were already in your story to begin with. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not. Pastor Chad calls it the gift of goodbye.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily even against them. It's
No.
if your story changes, sometimes the crew that's along for the ride has to change too.
They have to.
Yeah, that's just how it is. So I think this is just kind of just a cool concept to understand that if you are in a place where you're feeling stuck, or if you are just experiencing no joy, what are we doing this for? What am I here for? Who am I affecting? Like, or your kids feel that way. They're, just kind of walking around in the zombie life, or they're making decisions with people that they shouldn't be making those decisions with. There is a way that you can put a pin in that story
And pivot.
start making a new one.
Go the other way.
Yes. And I just totally loved that way of thinking of, it's not this like, it's time to change my life. Let's make a to-do list. We've got to check things off, and we're going to stop this and start this, and just make a new, add a new paragraph.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes I think it's and maybe this is bold to say that, but sometimes I feel like our stories can change long before our circumstances catch up to it.
Oh yeah.
And it's just, hard decisions day after day.
Yeah.
After day. Because I've told you before, like, there are things that I don't want to do them. I don't want to read the Bible when I'm tired. I just want to go to bed.
Yeah.
But having consistently done that for so long now, like, I see the good that has come from it.
Yep.
And just pushing through when I didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so important for other people to know.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Just staying, making that decision and run with it.
Yep.
Run with it. So, all right. So again, if you can change your story, you can change your kid's story, you can change your family's story, you can change your marriage's story.
You can do it today.
Yep. You can put a little chapter marker where you're at, and then start writing a new paragraph. Yep. And see where that story might take you.
Absolutely.
You might make a new chapter, or you might just leave the whole book altogether.
That's right.
But if you want to know more and kind of read more about this, again, this is a book by Donald Miller. It's called A Million Miles in 1,000 Years. And he's got a very unique style of writing, but I love it. This is not a Christian novel, but it does have biblical ties. He talks about, he is a believer, and he talks about, just different God aspects and how he, in his mind, has tied these things into, biblical life story and things like that. It's a very, very cool concept. And just a really, a new way of thinking about things, give you a little twist on creating a new story for yourself. So we will do our best to link this book down below. I think you can get it on Amazon. I don't know. There was something funky with ordering. I think I've had to pay shipping. Who has to pay shipping these days? It's ridiculous.
Not I. Team Amazon Prime.
Right? Yeah, I think it's like not a Prime thing. I don't know, but we'll put a link below. And as you know, we do not do any of this without our amazing producer, Stay Stoked Creative Co. So if you want to know more about him, you can find more about him in the show notes below as well. And do we have any? Are you ready to land this plane?
Let's land it.
Okay, we've landed. All right. Thank you guys so much for being with us. And again, this is summertime 2026. So we may, kind of be on and off the board as summer allows. So
depends on which 90s activities we're trying to roll through this week.
Yeah, we need to check in like midsummer and see, because this girl, she's checking things off left and right.
We've got about a third of the list checked off. Because it has rained so much, we've pretty much done all the inside activities already.
Yeah, we've had consistent rain. It's feeling like Florida up in Georgia right now.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, so we'll have to do a midsummer check-in.
We'll do
see
it.
how that 90s list is going.
We'll do it.
Yeah, step back into the 90s. Get you an actual book to hold in your hand. And
go read it.
Mark it up. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Be blessed.
See ya.